and today we're in the garage because we are going to be pouring some more concrete candle jars, and I have a couple other concrete things that I'm going to be pouring as well. So if you are interested, just keep on watching and I hope you enjoy. Alright, I have mentioned all of these in my other video, which I'll link down below, but I'll briefly go over it again, and everything I mention will be linked in the description box below. First and most importantly, you need to protect yourself when it comes to working with concrete because of the silica that it contains. It can be very dangerous for your lungs, so you definitely want to have gloves and a mask or a respirator. I always have paper towels on hand for cleaning up, and then my distilled water, which again, if you've watched my other video, you know I prefer that. Just leaves my vessels coming out a little bit cleaner. I have some red Solo cups and a silicone mixing bowl and spatula, which makes for a super easy cleanup. I use this synthetic black iron oxide to achieve the charcoal color of my jars. And then in my other regular colored jars, I usually do a little swirl of gold metallic paint. So I will be demonstrating how I do both of those today in this video. These are the 3-inch tall tulip molds from Modern Craft Labs. I absolutely love them. They are a bit on the pricier side, but definitely worth it in my opinion. And they do come with this outer shell portion, which acts as a reinforcement to help keep that circular shape of the mold. And here is the star of the show, the cement awl. And you might be wondering why I have it in 2 separate containers. I don't normally do that, but the last 2 bags I've purchased came super clumpy. So what I've been doing is sifting it out into another container and then scooping from that when I'm making my products. So it's a little bit more work, but definitely got to get those clumps out. Next we have this funny looking guy, which is a dental vibrating machine, and it's an optional step, but it's an easier way to get the bubbles out of your molds. So I'm going to start measuring out my cement awl, and just for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to be doing 1 jar at a time. But typically I do 2 or 3 at a time just to be a little more efficient. So for 1 jar, I just do a little bit under a cup full of cement awl and add that to my bowl. And then what I'm going to do is pour some of my distilled water into a red Solo cup, just so I don't have to tilt over that huge gallon of water every time I need it. Next, I'm going to start adding in my water, and this is something that you're just going to want to do a little bit at a time, because if you don't add enough, you can always add more, but if you add too much, then you're just going to have to keep adding more cement all to your mixture, and it just gets out of hand. So by adding just a little bit at a time, you can really keep it under control, and we're looking for that pancake batter consistency. But if you are going to be using a lot of acrylic paint, like if you're looking to color your entire vessel a certain color and you're going to be adding a lot of paint, you want your mixture to be on the thinner side, because once you add that paint in, it really thickens it up. But I'm just going to be adding a touch of paint, so I'm still going to be looking for that pancake batter consistency. And also when you're mixing, you want to make sure that you're scraping all over that bowl. Make sure you get the bottom. It's like when you're making a cake, and you know how some of that dry cake mix can get stuck to the bottom of the bowl. You want to make sure that everything is getting incorporated, and also make sure that you're trying to get all of the clumps out that you see. I just added a small amount of that rose gold paint, and now I'm taking my spatula through it a couple times just to marble it in. Now it's time to pour, and I already have my mold placed on the dental vibrating machine, and as soon as I'm done pouring, I'll just turn it on for about 10 seconds or so on the low or just above low setting. And it helps to get those bubbles out, and you can see them start to rise to the top, and it's actually really satisfying. But this step is optional. You can, of course, just tap or bounce your mold on the table, and that should work just as fine, but this machine just makes it a little bit easier. I've had quite a few people ask me how I clean up the concrete, and I found that the easiest way is to wipe out as much as I can with paper towels into the trash. And if I'm just in between pours, I'll leave a little bit of residue in there, not a big deal. But if I'm completely done for the day or switching to an entirely different color of concrete, I'll take my bowl outside and hose it off in the dirt. I know not everybody has access to a hose in an area that they can rinse it out, but in my opinion, I think that's probably the best method.
Definitely do not pour any of this down your sink. That is just going to be a disaster. Don't do that. But yeah, paper towels and the hose, I think, is probably the best way to do it. We are moving on to the charcoal jars, and all I do is take this little plastic spoon and do about 1.5 or 2-ish scoops of the synthetic black iron oxide into the dry concrete, and then I stir that, and then once that's all mixed together, then I add in my water and just do everything as normal, and that is it. It's super easy. I thought I would throw in some answers to questions that I frequently get asked, and probably the most asked question is it necessary to seal your jars? And the answer is yes. If you're making candles, you definitely want to seal. The reason for that is because concrete is very porous. So if you're pouring in your wax and your fragrance oil into an unsealed vessel, it may not seem like it at first, but over time they are going to seep through the vessel. So you definitely want to seal. And the one that I recommend is from Earth Safe Finishes, their preserver / sealer. I have it linked down below, and I'll also link my video that I made all about the sealing process if you haven't seen it yet. Another comment I frequently see is in regards to shipping. A lot of people think that shipping a concrete candle is going to be insanely expensive, and I thought this as well when I first started out, but I was pleasantly surprised to find that is not bad at all. So don't let that scare you away from making these. Of course, this is just for my size candle that I'm referring to. If you're making a much larger one, of course it's going to be heavier and more expensive. But in regards to this 3-inch tall tulip mold that I use, the shipping prices are not much different than, say, a glass candle, in my opinion. So again, don't let that deter you from making concrete candles. Now I'm getting ready to pour some of these leaf molds that I recently purchased from Amazon, and I just think these are really cool and unique looking. I do have the oval concrete trays on my website right now for sale, and then I'll probably add some of these on there later this month. I do feel like I need to play around with these molds a little bit more because they can be tricky as far as getting the concrete to flow evenly through all of the cavities. But the more that I'm pouring it, the easier it's become. So yeah, I just think that these look really cool when they're all finished. And then another new mold that I recently purchased is a soap dish mold. So I'm also going to pour one of those. And the important thing I've learned with this mold is to leave those 3 pillars open at the very top. So you want just the top of them to be peeking through the concrete, because those will be the holes that the water is going to drain through on your soap dish. And now it is time to unmold them. And as you can see, those holes are nice and clear for water to flow through. And then the leaf molds turned out awesome. And one thing I do want to mention with anything concrete is when you initially unmold it, it's going to appear a lot darker than what it's actually going to look like after it dries. So definitely don't judge it on when you first unmold it, because it's just going to look a lot darker than it does when it dries out. And then it's time to unmold the jars, and I find these a lot easier to unmold than the Amazon ones, in my opinion. So I just sort of loosen up around the top, and then I use my palms to fold it over until it's folded over all the way around, and then I just start pulling up on that top part. And then eventually you can get it over the bottom and just pull up and twist it out. And of course you want to wash your hands when you're done unmolding anything, but especially when you're working with pigments, because it will leave your hands pigmented. You can wear gloves when you're unmolding, but I find it easier to grip without the gloves. And these are all of the products the next day, so as you can see, they've lightened up quite a bit in color, and I'm very happy with how everything turned out. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys very soon. I hope you have a great day.